But the verses that I wanted to talk about today in particular are those verses in Surah Al-Shu'ara where Ibrahim alayhi salam said to his people, قَالَ أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْبُدُونَ أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمُ الْأَقْدَمُونَ فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌّ لِّي إِلَّا رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ الذي خلقني فهو يهدين والذي هو يطعمني ويسقين وإذا مرضت فهو يشفين والذي يميتني ثم يحيين والذي أطمع أن يغفر لي خطيئتي يوم الدين. And I will just focus on these verses. قال أفرأيتم ما كنتم تعبدون. This is Ibrahim talking to his people. He's introducing his God to his people. And certainly, someone of my size will benefit a great deal from Ibrahim's introduction of God to his people. Ibrahim is the second greatest after the Prophet ﷺ, the second greatest of Allah's creation, the second greatest of the mankind after the Prophet ﷺ. So Ibrahim said to them, قَالَ أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْبُدُونَ. He said, have you seen those that you used to worship? Have you seen those deities that you have been worshipping? فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌّ لِّي إِلَّا رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. They are all my enemies except for the Lord of the worlds. رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Except for the Lord of the worlds. And it is, sometimes we feel too shy to say the truth. And I'm not saying that you will always speak in this prophetic assertiveness, because you're not Ibrahim. Your character, your qualities are not up there so that you could speak in a prophetic voice. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to talk to the people like Ibrahim was talking to the people with the assertiveness, forcefulness, and the prophetic voice of Ibrahim, because Ibrahim already had credit with his people. He was known to be Ibrahim. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he started to preach to them after he was already known to be a Sadiq al-Amin. You're not known, I'm not known. We're actually looked down at. Or we're actually perceived with a lot of suspicion and doubt, if not worse than that. So don't speak with a prophetic voice, but understand that there is an importance for assertiveness, clarity, and lack of ambiguity. فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌّ لِّي. They are my enemies, except for the Lord of the worlds. So to clear myself from shirk and to basically set the record straight, I have nothing to do with all of this. There is only one deity that I worship. He's unlike any of those deities. Without that clarification, without making sure that you have complete devotion for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would not be admitted into His presence, because He does not take basically people who have preoccupation with other deities, which could be not necessarily idols. There is actually idolizing of a lot of things. There is, different types of paganism, different types of idolatry. There is the idolatry of money. Isn't that a type of idolatry? The Prophet told us that it's a type of idolatry. The Prophet said, "Ta'is abdul dinar, ta'is abdul dirham." May he not prosper, the slave of the dinar and the slave of the dirham. So Allah does not accept any form of idolatry. Allah wants pure devotion. So in order for you to be admitted into His presence, and in order for you to be accepted as one of His servants, you will need to clear your heart from any competition. Any competition. It has to be completely devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not easy, by the way. That is extremely difficult. One of the things that you need to clear your heart of is basically the pursuit of people's pleasure, the pursuit of people's acceptance, the pursuit of conforming, the pursuit of basically being accepted by the generality of people. That is a devastating pursuit. And that pursuit is particularly devastating to people who excel and get rid of the other forms of idolatry and purify their hearts of all other forms of shirk. So the people can, like Sufyan al-Thawri said, rahimahullah, ما رأيت الزهد أقل منه في شيء منه في الرياسة. I have not seen zuhd to be more scarce in anything than the zuhd or disinterest in leadership, because it's about acceptance. It's about the people's pleasure. He said that a man could practice zuhd. إن المرأة قد يزهد في الطعام والشراب والنكاح والمال فإن نُزِعَ في الرياسة تحامى عليها وعاد فيها. That a man could show this interest in wealth, food, drink, even sexual relations. He could actually practice zuhd or show this interest in all of that. But once someone competes with him for leadership, for distinction, sibling rivalry. I want to be my parents' favorite. It is basically wanting to be, accepted, wanting to be praised, wanting to be recognized by the people as superior, as better, as this or that. So Imam Sufyan al-Thawri said that the man could give up everything. But once someone competes with him for leadership, then he becomes agitated because of that, and he fights, and he makes enemies because of that. It's a different type. So I'm just saying this to say that this is, removal of idolatry from our hearts is not an easy business. Don't think that you got there. Don't think that you have sincerity. Accuse yourself always of lack of sincerity. Accuse yourself always of hypocrisy. Not the so-called nifaq al-ilmi or nifaq al-aqadi or nifaq al-akbar, not the sort of major hypocrisy, because you know that you're a believer. You know that you believe deep inside La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. But what the Sahaba used to accuse themselves of is in nifaq al-amali. It's the practical nifaq. It is basically to show off once. That's like a form of nifaq. To show off is a form of nifaq. To seek the pleasure of people where you should have been seeking the pleasure of Allah. To do something in private that is good, but then you can't keep it for yourself. And you're almost itching to tell somebody about it. Even your wife. Or your parents. You just can't keep it for yourself. Although Allah knew about it, He should have been sufficient for you. أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِكَافٍ عَبْدًا? Isn't Allah sufficient for His servant? You have done it. Allah saw it. Allah is sufficient for you. ما ضرهم ألا يعرفهم عمر إن كان رب عمر قد عرفهم وأكرمهم في الشهادة. Umar said, what would harm them to not be recognized by Umar? If the Lord of Umar had already known them, if the Lord of Umar had already recognized them. So, isn't Allah sufficient for us? He is certainly sufficient for us. So why are we itching to tell somebody about it when Allah saw it, when Allah knew of it, when Allah heard it? You've done something good, keep it, hide it for another day, for the day of your need. Hide it for the time of your need. Hide it for your first night in the grave. That will be a very sort of consequential night, because that is the beginning of the next phase of your existence. If it is good, then everything else, everything beyond it will be better. And if it is bad, then everything beyond them would be worse. Why can't we hide it? We have to practice this. So let's remove all forms of idolatry from our hearts so that we will be like Ibrahim. فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌ لِي إِلَّا رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Not only the idols, the statues, but all forms of idolatry. They are my enemies except for the Lord of the worlds. الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي فَهُوَ يَهْدِينِ. He started to describe his Lord. He began with what? الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي. He who created me. فَهُوَ يَهْدِينِ. And it is He who guides me. And look at the connection that Ibrahim alayhi salam made. He who created me, and it is He who guides me. This is very important. It's a very important connection here that he made. الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي فَهُوَ يَهْدِينِ. Did anyone make the claim of creation other than the Lord of the worlds, the Lord of Ibrahim, and the prophets before him and after him, Musa, Isa, Muhammad, and before them Noah, from Adam alayhi salam? Did anyone make that claim? No. In fact, the way you reach the doors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way you get yourself there, is through reflection and logic.